the Capitol and then headed inside for the hearing on House Bill 2528, which would increase the amount of capital gains that could be claimed on state income tax. Opponents are calling it tax cuts for millionaires. Red for Ed supporters looked disappointed after it passed with a 4-3 vote.
Let's all work together on that and make sure that money gets to the classroom, and with that I vote aye.
Senator David Farnsworth voted yes to pass HB 2528 with a room full of Red for Ed supporters. He explained his vote, calling for school districts to do a better job spending the money they're given. Arizona Education Association President Joe Thomas says the funding problem is coming from bills like HB 2528.
They keep passing tax cuts to where there's less money next year.
He says Arizona is spending $1 billion less on education than they did 10 years ago.
To throw up their hands and say, oh my gosh, we just don't have any money, it's because they're robbing schools every year with tax cuts.
Teachers, a part of the Sick Out, marched in a circle around the front of the Capitol before and after the Senate committee hearing.
Red for Ed! Red for Ed! Red for Ed!
Teachers from the Pendergast Elementary School District say they want to feel appreciated.
We don't feel valued.
Teacher at Amberlea Elementary School, James Hartman, says their salaries can't keep up with the cost of living and inflation.
They're not rewarding teachers for their longevity anymore. That salary scale has stopped.
Teachers also say they are being overworked.
We're serious about our jobs, and we wish that we were taken seriously too.
First grade teacher at Sonoran Sky Elementary School, Casey Goulette, says she worked a second job during winter break and plans on finding another one for summer break.
Our hearts are in it for our kids, and it is a struggle every day without having the support of supplies and teachers having to work 2 jobs and not having proper time to plan and be prepared for their lessons.
Most of the teachers at the Capitol today will be returning next Wednesday for what is being called a teach-in, organized by Save Our Schools Arizona, Arizona Educators United, and Arizona PTA. And I'm Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
Many of the teachers at the Capitol today were from the Pendergast Elementary School District, which covers parts of Phoenix, Glendale, and Avondale. Due to the shortage of teachers in the district, 9 schools canceled class for the day. A sign in front of the school and an empty parking lot was a pattern at several closed Pendergast district schools today. District spokesperson Netta Shafir says the schools made phone calls to parents last night and this morning to let them know that their children had the day off, but not all schools in the district canceled classes. Shafir also told Cronkite News that teachers and students were not penalized if they decided not to come in. The district's governing board voted earlier this month to give teachers a raise of up to 7%.
Congressional leaders are nearing an agreement on a $1.3 trillion federal budget that would fund government operations for the rest of fiscal 2018, which is already almost half over. The plan reportedly includes a call for stronger background checks on gun purchasers, but no language on immigration reform. Lawmakers have yet to see the bill, which has to be passed by Friday to head off another government shutdown. The timing upset some congressmen, like Arizona Representative Andy Biggs. He told us he can read real fast, but not fast enough to understand, quote, 2,000 pages of some Byzantine language in the bill.
What in the world are we supposed to really believe about what's in and what's not in there? Because it always comes down to what's in writing, and we don't have that.
Also in Washington, Congresswoman Martha McSally suggested a wall may need to be built between Arizona and California, separating the states. She made the apparent joke while at a roundtable about sanctuary cities with President Donald Trump. The president led off the discussion, saying the sanctuary cities release thousands of criminals out of jails and back into the community. McSally thanked the president for his leadership on the issue and called out California for, quote, thumbing its nose at law and order and protecting citizens.
As we look in Arizona, we often look into the dangers in the southern border. But if these dangerous policies continue out of California, we might need to build a wall between California and Arizona as well.
McSally implied that she was joking about building the wall and shared the ways that she says the California policies are negatively impacting Arizona.
An article published by The Guardian declared Phoenix to be one of the least sustainable cities in the world due to the area's overuse of water. Parts of Phoenix use large amounts of water to maintain the city's appearances and reputation. However, Phoenix only received 8 inches of rainfall last year. Most of Arizona's water comes from Lake Mead, which is fed by the Colorado River. That river is fed by snowfall in the Rockies, which was down 70% last winter. The river is drying up, and Phoenix has shown no signs of implementing water restrictions to combat the problem. The article also says the city has plans to expand even further, but Phoenix does not have the water resources available.
Members of the Latino community are speaking out against the poor environmental conditions that they feel are negatively affecting their neighborhoods here in the valley. Cronkite News reporter Madison Stark has more about the factors that they say are contributing to the issue.
Landfills, rock quarries, and electrical power plants are all factors that contribute to the poor air quality in South Phoenix, a community dominated by Latinos, according to Statistical Atlas.
We are often living in bunches in certain parts of town where just the health is not as good as it could be.
At a press conference today, members of the Arizona legislature, Latino community, and other organizations like Defend Our Future gathered to raise awareness for environmental equality. Laura Dent, executive director for CHISPA, says these negative health effects are being realized.
Latino youth are 40% more likely to die from asthma-related illnesses and 60% more likely than their white counterparts nationwide to visit the emergency room.
Nicolette Del Palacio is a member of the Phoenix Latino community who was affected firsthand.
It was actually somebody who had childhood asthma. That was a completely preventable disease. That was specifically because we lived in a neighborhood that was right by a power plant.
Environmental injustices aren't the only problem Latino community members are concerned about. The larger problem, they say, lies in their misrepresentation in the state legislature. Senator Quezada attended the event this morning and spoke about his community's lack of voice in the state government.
A lot of times the leaders that are in charge now come from neighborhoods where they've got plenty of green space and they're not ever involved in the communities that are suffering from these issues.
But there is hope.
Our community is galvanizing, our community is registering to vote, we're gaining citizenship, we're going to show up at the polls.
In Phoenix, Madison Stark, Cronkite News.
Latino community members are pushing for initiatives that they say would eliminate dirty energy sources, such as replacing diesel-fueled school buses with electric-powered ones instead.
It was more than 5 years ago that then-Governor Jan Brewer signed an executive order denying driver's licenses to Daca recipients, an order that was quickly blocked by courts. Cronkite News reporter Austin Bundy tells us from our Washington bureau, the Supreme Court battle may be over, but not the political fight. Austin?
Arizona will continue issuing driver's licenses to dreamers after the Supreme Court this week refused to hear the state's last-ditch appeal on the issue. The court's decision did not sit well with some Republicans, including the one in the White House. This was President Donald Trump yesterday. During a meeting on sanctuary cities, he praised Attorney General Jeff Sessions for the Justice Department's actions on immigration.
Jeff, I will say the level of strength from the Justice Department on this issue and on other border issues has been fantastic, so we appreciate it very much.
But this morning, Trump took a different view of the department, taking to Twitter to criticize the agency for not pushing the Supreme Court to hear Arizona's case, saying they, quote, should have sought review. Arizona Representative Andy Biggs agreed with the president, saying he was frustrated and disappointed by the high court's inaction.
Arizona was trying to prevent those who are here in the country illegally from getting licenses. Other states have permitted it. And so you have a real conflict of laws from state to state.
Biggs said there needs to be a single ruling to deter states from contradicting each other's laws.
When you have national reciprocity on driver's licenses like we do, to have that kind of disparate legal application is a problem, and the U.S. Supreme Court should have weighed in on it.
While Biggs and the president were unhappy with the court, immigration advocates like Representative Raul Grijalva said justice prevailed, calling the state's case a, quote, baseless challenge from the anti-immigrant forces in the state. In Washington, Austin Bundy, Cronkite News.
High school students may have the option to opt out of the AZ Merit Test and opt into the ACT or SAT for a price.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we take a look at the struggles low-income families face when it comes time for standardized testing.
Plus, faux dairy products like coconut milk and almond milk have sent the dairy market plummeting. what this means for farmers across the nation.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
The hunt for the bomber who terrorized Austin, Texas is over. Suspect Mark Condit killed himself by exploding a bomb in his own vehicle while SWAT teams tried to close in on him. Authorities are still unsure if he acted alone. Austin police are questioning the suspect's roommates for their potential involvement. Police say even though the primary suspect is dead, they aren't stopping the investigation.
We are concerned that there still may be other devices out there, and we want to make sure that if people see suspicious packages or bags, they continue to call 911 and report that to the police.
High school students in the Valley may no longer have to take standardized testing, but instead make the SAT or ACT mandatory. Reporter Michaela Moorhead shares how this bill could change students' futures.
These are the steps to prepare for college.
It's that time of year again when students start studying for the ACT or SAT at places like Sylvan Learning Center. But this may become even more important if HB 2037 is passed. Arizona high school juniors may have the opportunity to take the SAT or ACT in place of AZ merit testing. All public high school students across the Valley take the AZ merit testing, but not all pay to take the SAT or ACT. Kristen Roberts, high school teacher, says many opportunities could open for students if this bill is passed.
I don't always know how important the ACT is and how colleges look at that, so giving them the opportunity to take that is just part of what we do at school. I think we'll give more students access to scholarships and give more students that future vision, think of themselves as a college student.
Although mandatory, students may still have to pay out of their own pocket to take the ACT or SAT. Lee Jensen, Governmental Relations Associate, says Arizona School Board Association is against this.
It's not fair to ask students to pay that for themselves and make them pay for that. So that's definitely a big part of the equation that's not addressed in the bill.
Robert's main concern is high schools receiving lower letter grades if the bill is passed.
Might make the schools look like we're lower performing simply because in most schools right now, the students who take the ACT are the students who desire to. If you make that mandatory for all students, you're not going to only be reaching those high achievers.
In Phoenix, Michaela Moorhead, Cronkite News.
Currently, the bill has passed the House, but it's waiting to be discussed in the Senate.
Lawmakers are working to close an $11.6 billion maintenance backlog in the national parks, but differed on how to pay for it. Ariana Bustos brings us more from our Washington bureau.
Matt Lee Ashley said addressing the maintenance backlog is important, but not at the risk of damaging the environment.
Should we be selling out the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to fix some bathrooms in the national parks? No, of course not. And the same goes with building a coal mine outside of a national monument. That's not the appropriate activity for our public lands, especially not to be paying for potholes in parking lots on national parks.
Lee Ashley, senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, testified Tuesday in support of the National Parks Legacy Act, which would dedicate tens of millions of dollars every year over the next 30 years to fix national parks. Lee Ashley says it's better than the alternative, the National Park Restoration Act, which would use revenue from energy development.
It's extremely speculative. No money would go into this fund unless the United States dramatically expands drilling and mining in some of the most sensitive places we have.
But National Park Service Deputy Director P. Daniel Smith disagreed. He He said the Restoration Act is efficient and provides needed money in a third of the time.
We cannot rely solely on appropriated dollars to address this problem. The backlog of projects at our national parks limits access, lessens visitor experiences, impacts recreational opportunities, and compromises public health and safety.
Lee Ashley said the government can still address the maintenance backlog, but protect the environment at the same time.
You have to be investing both in visitor facilities and in protecting the places that are in these national parks so that people can go see abundant wildlife and historic treasures.
Reporting from Washington, Ariana Bustos, Cronkite News.
Arizona's maintenance backlog is at more than $500 million, the Grand Canyon making up most of it at about $330 million.
Milk alternatives have changed the way we consumed our lattes.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we take a look at how this trend is impacting dairy farmers.
And clouds are moving back into the valley today, bringing with them a chance of rain. Stay tuned to see if I give you the green light on getting a car wash tomorrow.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
Fridays, it's at Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Then join us for at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh, each Friday at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Alternative milk products are seeing a rise in demand across the country. However, the traditional dairy industry is still popular among a little over half of consumers. Brooke DeGumbia spoke with advocates on both sides of the issue and has more in Los Angeles.
The modern way to consume much of the recommended daily calcium and nutrients is now through milk alternatives, an industry expected to top $16 billion in revenue this year.
The nutritional benefits of the protein that everyone seems to be concerned about and the calcium and vitamin D, they're right on par with dairy.
Kippy Miller started the first non-dairy ice cream franchise in the world in Venice, California, and she believes diets should contain choices.
Non-dairy is interesting in that it's coconuts and it's almonds and it's pecans and it's hemps and it's soy and it's God, I can't even think of all of the alternative, right? Whereas dairy's just one perspective.
Millennials and Generation Z in particular are straying away from dairy because of digestive problems, along with environmental and health concerns.
I'm not vegan or really even dairy-free, but I do, even at coffee shops, I tend to buy like the almond milk or the coconut milk instead. It just makes me feel better.
Although the trend for leading a plant-based diet continues, customers are still sticking to the traditional milk regimen. About half of the U.S. population still uses milk and dairy as their main source of protein.
I grew up on it, and it's just normal for me to have dairy every day.
And within some dairy consumers, raw milk is gaining popularity.
Raw milk is the primal dairy food. It is the baseline. That's the origin, and then from there is processed dairy.
Raw milk is only legal for sale in 13 states, including California and Arizona. It's not pasteurized, meaning the milk doesn't go through the heating process to kill certain bacteria. But some argue that process kills the nutrients in cow milk. Organic Pastures has seen about a 5% increase in sales annually, and they also launched their raw cheese in Sprouts Farmers Market last year. In Fresno, Brooke DeGumbia, Cronkite News.
Currently, there are 8 farms in Arizona that produce raw milk. This type of milk usually ends up having a higher cost than regular milk for consumers.
The Northeast may be battling frigid temperatures and snowfall, but here in Phoenix, we're warming up.
Nicole, will we continue to see a heat up as we head into the weekend?
That's right, Troy and Adriana. Yesterday marked the first day of spring, but lately it's been feeling like summer outside. Our high today of 85 degrees is 7 degrees above the average this time of year, which is 78 degrees. But thankfully, we didn't reach the record high that was set back in 2004, which is 97 degrees. And although we are experiencing above average temperatures, we have nothing to complain about compared to what the rest of the country is currently experiencing. The West Coast right now is experiencing torrential downpours, and many are preparing for evacuations due to all of the flooding. And then along the East Coast, they're experiencing another nor'easter moving in, bringing with it ice, wind, and snow, causing tremendous power outages, and thousands of flights are canceled. So if you have any upcoming travel plans, make sure to call your airline before you head to the airport. And now looking at our weather closer to home, our temperatures are about 10 degrees above average across the state. Flagstaff and the Grand Canyon are in the high 50s to low 60s. Show Low is coming in at 65 degrees right now. And over in the Colorado River Valley, Quartzsite and Yuma are in the mid 80s. And will warm all the way to 91 degrees tomorrow. We do have a 10% chance of rain tomorrow. Our chances of rain will increase to 20% come Friday. The best chance to see the rain will be Thursday night going into Friday morning. And then we'll cool off again come Friday, looking at a high of 80 degrees with breezy conditions and cloudy skies. So you're definitely going to want to wait on that car wash until the beginning of the work week. Reporting for the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Nicole Randock.
Middle schoolers are taking on the battle of the bots.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how these students are exercising their minds and expressing their creativity.
Cronkite News weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Third Rail with Ozzy, the new weekly show where we tackle the taboo and debate the tough questions with some of the most interesting minds in the game. I'm Carlos Watson, electrifying conversation, Friday, only on PBS.
Every year, hundreds of middle school students come together to compete in a robotics state championship. Here, the students have replaced their video game controllers for controllers of a different type. Cade Garner spoke with one of the teams that hopes to take home the gold.
We want to win.
At the VexIQ State Championship, dozens of teams from middle schools across the state want to take home the robotics trophy. Students from the Gray Wolves team are no exception.
I'm really excited. I'm glad I'm part of the first ever state making it to state in Leading Edge Academy Maricopa history.
The Gray Wolves are excited to be making school history, but they are also excited to just be part of a team.
My favorite part is how cooperative they are and how creative we can be. I mean, we started from a basic bot to a winning bot like this, and we're here at state and just doing what we love. So.
The team practices as it waits for one of its many matches. Their coach, James Larson, watches other teams compete so he can tell his students what to watch out for.
I'm excited to be here. We're doing all right, but I'm not too concerned about our score. Like I said, I'm happy that we made it here, so to me that's already a victory.
The competition clears out and the boys await their turn to compete. This room is empty right now, but in a couple minutes, drivers, teammates, coaches, fans, parents, everyone will be crammed into here to watch their favorite team pick up these small discs with their robots and put them on top of the poles for points. Coach Larson takes his place on the floor near his athletes. The Gray Wolves now compete. The day is not over. The Gray Wolves will face off in nearly 10 qualifying matches before the finals, and their robot's design needs to be judged.
My favorite part about it is just how we get to design all of our bots. It's been a lot of fun.
Team members say they will be happy whether they win or lose. As their coach says, making it to state is already a victory. In Chandler, Cade Garner, Cronkite News.
After many rigorous rounds of competition, the Gray Wolves qualified for the final rounds at state. At the end of the day, the team took home the third-place trophy.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, we'll take a look at local housing prices, and we'll hear about and hear from the Phoenix Symphony Chorus. It's on the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Hari Srinivasan. On the next NewsHour, a sweeping new study details the cost of racism in the lives of African-American boys. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from...
I'm David Goldstein, owner of Biltmore Loan and Jewelry. We buy or loan on upscale assets. We have over 30 years of experience in determining values of automobiles, jewelry, art, collectibles, and antiques. For more information and appointments, biltmoreloan.com.
The denture experts with their digital technology strive to give you a confident and natural smile with comfortable fitting dentures or implants with no sores or odors. Information and appointments at thedentureexperts.com or 480-275-6284.